scared of ever taking chances. I was scared of falling in love. I'm serious of putting up the fences. I'm fine. This time I won't be holding back. This time I won't be taking back. I'm making a better start. Giving you all my heart. This time I love you just like that. Just like that. Just like that. Hands out. I'm waiting for you to hold. No doubt. I'm finally getting bold. Yes, I just need a little taking chances.
Welcome everybody and good evening. It is another week. This time we are broadcasting live, from the Asia Blockchain Center. Again, the Asia Blockchain Center is a very ambitious project happening in the skirts of Kuala Lumpur City with over 12 floors of 100,000 square feet of office space, a place for blockchain developers, entrepreneurs and innovators as well. So this week, we are bringing the attention into enterprise blockchains. We did this once back in May, and we're excited to do another round, this time with the theme of exploring business applications for the real world. One of the biggest criticisms that we get a lot in the community is that we learn a lot about blockchain, but we don't see enough applications. We don't see enough examples being used, and how can we relate it, with real activities? Hence, the theme of this week is to help more of you, more enterprises, more companies, more governments, departments, who are curious about the technology. How can they use it immediately? So we're going to start off with blockchain as a service today. To kick off day one. And then in the subsequent days, we're going to dive into individual specific use cases. In Tuesday, we're going to cover traceability. In Wednesday, insurance. On Thursday, capital markets. And last but not least, to end Asia Enterprise Blockchain Week, we're going to talk about next generation technologies. We cannot not do this, where every time, we talk about a technology event, we must also be looking forward. Apart from just looking about where we are, where we've been, we have to always be ahead of the curve. So again, very important disclaimer. None of the content that is shared throughout this entire week should be treated as a financial or investment advice. Please use this as a completely free additional resource to supplement your learning on the technology. Our goal for doing this is to help more people to understand blockchain, to help by providing a safe, neutral, easy environment to learn the technology, help more people to know what is real, what is fake, so that they can capture and put their attention and their most scarcest resource, that is their time, on doing the correct things. And also help more of you to find work and generate an alternative income in an industry which is among all the industries, in currently right now, the blockchain, cryptocurrency / DeFi industry is an industry that is booming and is hungry for talented, good people. So by having more of you who understand, and can improve your knowledge in this area, you can then position yourself to become a very attractive person where blockchain projects, both reputable and well-resourced, would love to get to meet you, to give you jobs, to make you, to onboard you as one of their early adopters, early user, a fan and champion. So let's get right onto it. For those who are completely new to blockchain, by now, you if you have attended our events before, you would be familiar, okay, with why blockchain is a topic, a very largely, okay, topic that a lot of people are paying attention to today. Is because we are moving on from the traditional model where people use databases. And when people use databases, okay, everybody has their own version of records. Okay, they operate in silos, and it's very, and thus this is where a lot of inefficiencies come from, and you are not able to trust one another in terms of the data that is being shared across. This is a huge problem that creates a lot of inefficiencies and gaps when you want to get something done. Whereas when people start adopting, okay, putting data on a blockchain where network and data are become one and they speak a common language, suddenly it is much easier, okay, and there are less arguments in between because everybody is speaking in the same language. However, one thing about blockchain is that after 3 years now, since okay, a lot of people have been looking into the space, one of the biggest misconceptions is that if you want to use blockchain, you need to create your own blockchain. And I think that one of the goals, okay, of this week is to help to make it clear that you don't have to build everything from scratch. Thus, that's why we're kicking off today with blockchains as a service. And there are three, okay, that you are going to learn today. You're going to learn about Amazon Web Services. You're going to learn about Alibaba Cloud. You're going to learn about ChainStack. And we have our resident expert, okay? He's the founder and CEO of a blockchain development company called Blocklime. His name is Harpreet Singh. Thank you very much, okay, for joining us today, Harpreet.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me.
So, first and foremost, Harpreet, what do we hope to achieve, okay, by the end of this week?
Actually, looking back what we did in the previous week, where we actually started to really showcase what were the protocols that were available. But then comes the question, how can I build this, right? How can I actually go out and deploy these technologies? How can I get started? There's a reason on day one I decided, we decided to basically go up and see why don't we start with blockchain as a service and give you the starting ground of going and testing on how to deploy your own network, like a simplified, in a simplified way of just deploying and testing around with the network itself. And then moving on, we're talking about use cases and what are the next things that you should look forward to. Where in the previous Enterprise Blockchain Week, the aim was to basically let you know what are the types of protocols that are out there. In this current one is how to get started.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So in this case, I think although yes, there was a lot of good comments that I was receiving from the last Enterprise Blockchain Week, so I knew I had to do another one. But I also started to get the same questions again. Yeah. Like the same question, like, oh, that's nice and all.
But where do we begin?
Where do we begin, right?
Where do we begin?
So
How do I
that
start? And there's always this perception that it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to get started. But the goal of this week is that once you have identified a particular problem that you want to solve, okay, and then you know exactly, okay, what are the options available on the table where you can immediately, whether you are from a company or whether you're from a government department, okay, you can now consider, okay, starting a POC or experiment.
Yes. So in this case, it just to give a kind of a picture that like previously we did share individually what those blockchains can do, but this time the idea is to basically bring all those experts together to talk about an individual use case.
All right.
Right. There's a reason on the way the agenda is planned is to go throughout the week to tell you where to get started, what are the use cases and what are the different protocols and technology things about it, and what's next. Right?
Okay. All right. You have prepared some slides. I'm putting it right now. Okay. Run through with us. Okay. What are blockchain as a service?
Yeah, I think we're starting off with the idea of blockchain as a service. I feel this is it's a mouthful of a word and it's very confusing. Some companies are claiming that they are a blockchain as a service or a BaaS company, but you don't really know what they really do.
Okay.
There's a huge amount of confusion. So this is something that I find very interesting. I
Can we
think
just agree that we call it BaaS? Is it that's the correct thing to say?
actually, like people has called it, blocks, like they always say the full word. I think BaaS is, like certain people call it BaaS. Some people just say BaaS. I do not really know which will be the right pronunciation as well.
Okay.
To be honest, in the industry, because everybody is divided.
Let's go with BaaS. All right.
Let's just go with BaaS. I think
for this entire week we're only going to call it BaaS.
Yeah, that's what we're going to choose for this week. So blockchain as a service, BaaS for short. Going in, there's always a lot of confusion on what exactly is like blockchain as a service. So I think Jason did a very good job in introducing me already. So I'll skip the slide. And in terms of Blockline, I think we've been here quite a number of times. I think I should skip this one as well. So what we're going to be learning today is basically on what exactly is a BaaS, why does a BaaS exist, type of BaaS services that are available, who is offering them, and what's needed next. What is the next step, right? So for all the people who is actually currently thinking about what exactly is a BaaS right now, BaaS is just like a kind of a service provided by a third-party vendor on which allow you to deploy your own blockchain apps, your smart contracts, and functions on blockchain infrastructure, which is developed by a third party, right? So in previous enterprise blockchain, where we talked about multiple protocols, but a lot of people do not know how to deploy on them, how to get access to them, where to download those, like codes or the protocols, how to get linked to them, right? So this is where we're trying to answer those questions today. Like this is one of the options of deploying your projects, your applications, or your contracts, or getting started with those protocols that we have featured previously. So, but one important question, why do we really need a blockchain as a service platform? So to this, there's a bit of backstory. This actually starts, I think, somewhere around 2016, 2017, when I actually was exploring blockchain development. This is my own personal story. So in 2017, when I was getting started with Ethereum, running out what is Solidity, I had a book, introducing Ethereum and Solidity, and I was actually really going through all the codes and what are the tools that were available. I was, back then there was no good application tools that were developed out there. There was no easy way of deploying your own private Ethereum. So basically, if you wanted to run an Ethereum, if you want to be connected to the Ethereum node, you had to run your own node using a kind of a command line interface. Like a kind of, if the persons who are getting, who's getting blurred out right now, is usually the black box where you type codes and things into it. So basically, that was the only ways. In beginning of 2016, you had that, and it was quite a difficult process to actually learn that. It was too technical, and I failed miserably. I basically just didn't find the CLI way of deploying codes, interesting, and I didn't really go ahead in 2016 to really learn on what exactly was Ethereum. But in 2017, I tried again. I said, let's just give it a second try. Back then, they already has their own wallet. We call it a full node wallet, MIS available. But there was a huge issue as well with it. Every time you open your laptop, you have to sync the blockchain. So, in this case, let's say if you just want to write a simple developer code, just say a simple one, just want to say hello world on this, on a smart contract and see it functioning on the blockchain, you have to sync the whole blockchain. And in this case, a day, it can even go up to like 2 GB or 3 GB, and the syncing is usually slow. It can take a few hours for you to just sync up the whole blockchain. And then, you are able to just deploy hello world. And if there's an internet, if you have a slow internet, like how I was working in a co-working space back then, the internet was terrible. And in that case, your syncing is slow. By the time you're syncing, there's already new blocks being added. So you can't deploy your transactions. So this was some of the pains that we had early days, just trying to deploy simple code until I think about somewhere 2017, Remix started to come in. That's where we started to see a bit more adoption. I can start writing some codes peacefully, not worrying about all the blocks getting synced. But that kind of solved some problems, but created new issues. I still can't work with my team. So here were the problems I was saying. It was hard to sync the blockchain onto your PC. You need a real reliable internet, because if you want to deploy anything even on the testnet, you have to be synced to the testnet. So your PC has to be always on. It is also hard to maintain your own test nodes, because we decided, okay, let's just buy a PC, make it a test node, and just like kind of connect it to Ethereum, and just keep it in our own local network so we can connect to it and use it. So we did that, but certain days the internet is down, certain days the firewall is down, certain days the computer is not responding, certain days you have to restart that computer. In that case, it's always need to go in and sit down and readjust that node and sync it up again. There was another challenge we faced after that.
Right. So what you're saying is that one of the big problems back then is that you needed to take care of the chain.
Yes.
That's basically, you need to make sure that the chain is functioning properly. But what your main goal is actually, you want to see whether your application is working.
Yes. I mean, like if you do anything in web development, right, you can just write a piece of code, click enter or click run, and usually you'll just run and show you, hey, this is what is going to happen. But back then, if you want to write any code or you want to test any code, you have to kind of deploy to a testnet. And in this case, you actually have to push the code to a testnet, and the testnet will respond, is it working or not? Mm-hmm. But that becomes an issue. If you run a local testnet, that's another problem. A lot of people say, why didn't you just run it on your computer, a local own testnet? But then I can't collaborate with my team, right? So in this case, we even went to the extent where I run the testnet on my laptop and everybody just connect to it, and and just use my laptop as the server. Mm-hmm. But then itself, it started to have its own issues, right? The day I'm not there, the team has no testnet. So in this case, I even left my laptop with a friend to just run it as a testnet. Mm-hmm. So I think that became some of the issues back then, where we didn't really have an easy way to connect to the blockchain and to test it and to understand if the codes that we are writing right now, will they work or will they return an error. Until Remix came out, things got much simpler, but still it was not. Remix is a tool for you to try out Solidity, to test out your code, but it's not a tool to manage your blockchain. Mm-hmm. Because when you see your own blockchain, if you look into a public blockchain, okay, you can use Etherscan and your own private node, and you can still go with it because you already have an explorer to see what's going on the other side. But at the same time, you need another custom node to connect to. You need to connect to the blockchain via a node. Right. So in this case, these days there's also a lot of node as service or blockchain as a service that allow you to do that. But back then it didn't have this. So all of this was an issue in the beginning, and that's where blockchain as service started to emerge. IBM came around and say, hey, you have problem deploying Ethereum. Why don't we deploy it for you? Deploy it on our cloud, and then you can even use our cloud services. Mm-hmm. And things started, when IBM did it, IBM started to import Hyperledger and Ethereum onto their network. People started to, really, a lot of the mainstream cloud companies started to look into it and see that, oh, that's a potential. There's a space that's growing. Maybe we should look into it.
I think there's one question we can answer right now, okay, from the community. It's from Yi. He asks, okay, so is Ethereum considered a type of BaaS? And I think it was answered very right.
I think I should explain here properly. Ethereum is a protocol. So it's a technology, of its own. It's it's kind of a protocol that is developed. But blockchain as a service, it's an infrastructure. You need it. How we needed to run the computer to connect to Ethereum. Mm-hmm. So somebody is running that for us. Mm-hmm. So we are connecting to Ethereum, the protocol, but through somebody else's computer, and we are paying them to run that computer and also build tools for us to better manage that computer, to better connect to that network. Mm-hmm. So in this case, that's what IBM Cloud did. So IBM said, okay, if you don't want to run your own computer to connect to the Ethereum network, why don't you connect to our servers, which are already connected to the Ethereum network, and you just rent our service.
Got it. It's basically to make things easier.
Yes, it's an infrastructure. So basically, a blockchain as a service is providing you infrastructure for blockchain as a service, to simplify. Back in the day, if you look back at my slide, I think I forgot to highlight that some people even called it node as service. I think it was much easier to explain node as service. But basically, a lot of these companies started to brand it as blockchain as a service because they wanted to do more than that. They don't want it to just be a node as a service, but they decided to go out and provide, like network maintenance services to manage, like how to deploy your network. Because we even have different ways of deploying your network. You can deploy it as a public chain, as a consortium, as a private network. And in that case, you need to, if you're deploying it as a consortium, you need to decide which are the members who wants to be part of the network. And you want to invite them in, you want to give them permissions. So in that case, it becomes a bigger, more than just a node running there. It builds all the tools around to facilitate you running your blockchain service. So that's where it really started on, and that were the reasons why this whole space started to form and build on. Because when you have such infrastructure being built for you, such tools being prepared for you, it started to really simplify a lot of the development, speed up a lot of this development that was in this space. In this case, a lot of the partner companies of these cloud systems also started to build blockchain tools around it, and some of them even started to build new sort of technologies. Kind of say, hey, maybe if blockchain doesn't work for you, why don't you use our form of DLT? That's what Amazon did with their own service. So I think this is some of the good applications that happen, because right now a lot of people are already used to using clouds to deploy applications, right? Using everything from AWS services to or maybe Google services to write your mobile app, to deploy your Alibaba Cloud, to basically run your web services, to run your applications. Because currently not only you're running your web there, you're purchasing your domains, you're basically having all your database being stored there. At the same time, you're also connecting to blockchain. Right. So it becomes a space of integrated services. So you just go and log into one space to actually, get linked to everything.
Right. So in other words, you're also seeing this as a good move by Amazon and by Alibaba Cloud, okay, as a way to give something that people are already familiar with.
Yes.
The enterprises and government, okay, they're already using this, right? Yes. Okay, so that they can, we can see more adoption.
Yeah, it's a value-add service in a way for them, because they already provide most of the infrastructure that's required for most of the applications. If they already, why not just provide one more service that also allow them to serve the decentralized application space? So that's where it really boiled down to. So coming back to the story, I was just saying, it sucked to be a blockchain developer back then, because this was the interface of the Mist wallet. I don't know if they still have it, or is it still running, because I stopped using it a long time ago. It just, and a full node just went out of fashion very quickly, because for most full node wallets, you had to download, I remember Ethereum went up to 100 GB or something like that. It was taking a huge part of my hard drive, just running a node, a wallet, until light client wallet started to come out, and things started to get much easier, and web wallet started to come out even better. MetaMask, I believe, was introduced somewhere around late 2017 as well, when things started to improve, and people started to notice that nobody is really going to use full nodes anymore. And as I was saying earlier, blockchain is a service. So what are the types of services and features that they really offer is platform and architecture management. In this case, as I was saying, it's a server. Like in this case, you run a computer service, and above that, you can manage the computer service. You can increase the RAM if you need it, if you can reduce it, if you don't need that much. In that case, you can manage how much of resources that you need. Maybe you need to run multiple servers to run multiple nodes, or maybe you want, or how do you want to optimize it? So that becomes the architecture part. And it also is modular, pre-configured network and infrastructure. So you just have to click few buttons to deploy it, where if, let's say, if I wanted to deploy it, like how we did it in our private testnets and our private server, we had to go up, purchase the server, install the software, install all the dependencies, configure the network, configure our routers, and then basically set up the VPN so we can access that particular server from outside of the building, blah, blah, blah. A lot of work where it would have just been 3 clicks to 5 clicks on an AWS or Ali Cloud today. So in this case, that's what it actually gives you. It allows you to, not do all that extra, work and just deploy it quickly. And it has a very easy setup workflow. As I told you, it's just a few clicks. Middleware for monitoring and what they call deployment, development of app building. In this case, let's say if you want to monitor, like what are the performance of the blockchain, how much of transactions it's sending out. They already have some transaction monitoring systems and everything built in. There's a dashboard for analyzing the chain code, the programs, auditable transaction records. So all the transactions you send in, your logs of whatever you send and whatever got executed, it's also being recorded. Because a lot of times we had this issue when we just type it into the CLI and push it in, we don't know if you already push in that particular code or not. In this case, it used to be a mess because sometimes we, like execute the function multiple times, it doesn't perform as the way that we wanted it to do, right? In that case, the smart contract, the deployment goes wrong or something. So build-in connection to needed services. As I told, in this case, AWS has like so many services that they offer. Similar with Ali Cloud as well. So both, in this case, they have so many multiple services that is already available on the network, so they can just integrate them easily when they deploy it on such blockchain as a service platforms. And you have professional and consultants, kind of services that is available. Let's say if today you want to deploy this service and companies would want to learn more about how can they deploy deploy this blockchain, where in previous days when you actually wanted to call these protocols or this, especially public blockchains, if you want to know something, it's very hard to reach out to these guys because they don't provide that service, right? There's no like professional service. Many of this, they do not really focus on enterprise technologies. They basically just focus on building their protocols and building their technologies. And as go for the adoption, it is an open source technology. It's left for the communities to do it and the companies in the communities to provide such services and consultation. But as go for, but let's say if enterprise company wants to build an open public blockchain, let's say they have a use case that is more suited to an open public blockchain, where do they find such professional, professionals who can come in and give them the advice and consultancy? That's where a lot of the early blockchain use cases, and especially in the enterprise and the public chain that has been done by big MNCs and companies, was done by blockchain as a service companies. IBM was a front runner for this. I believe if they managed to get multiple $1 billion of tenders to basically go in and secure blockchain projects in early days in multiple countries. And similarly, that's where when they saw that IBM was doing it really well, a lot of companies started to get on boarded. And the first thing that they did is launch their own blockchain as a service, follow what was working. And while going through that, look into what should be the best, ideas and what would be the best things for them to build. So what happened with IBM, they started to also build their own tools and their own tracking systems and everything on the way. So this, just talking about the whole blockchain as a service vendor ecosystem. So we have AWS, we have Huawei, Microsoft, IBM, Accenture, Kaleido from Consensus, Baidu, Oracle, SAP.
Basically, anybody who is a cloud service provider.
Basically, anybody is a cloud service provider except Kaleido, who didn't really exist. And actually, there are a few more players that I will be highlighting after this as well, like ChainStack and everybody who's actually not in this diagram. Because this diagram is actually for Blockchain 101, credits to them. They actually do a lot of good education materials, and this was prepared by them. But I decided to not leave out some of the other players as well, because currently looking at this, everybody has the same offerings, right? They think that, I can either go on HP or AWS, I can basically get the same service.
Right.
So that's where I decided to come up with these 3 types of where is the focus area.
Right.
Because if you really look into blockchain as a service, a lot of people think that you can get everything on a blockchain as a service.
Right. Not all BaaS are the same.
Not all BaaS are the same.
That's the goal for the next half that we have left, right?
Yes.
Right. Cool.
So in this case, you have to see that public blockchain BaaS, in early days, they really started as just API layers, where a lot of them was just doing providing APIs to multiple blockchains, and you can connect and call if any transactions has happened. And this was one of the early examples, like Infura is famous for using for Ethereum, and crypto APIs that work on more than 10 blockchains. In this case, you can, if let's say you would want to just integrate and find out if the transaction happens, and you would want to call those APIs, you can use crypto APIs. Other than that, actually, if let's say some of the API services, there's a difference between a blockchain as a service application where you can provide APIs, blockchain management, and at the same time deployment of that blockchain node. But API services, you just basically go and get REST. You just get REST APIs. So you just get a piece of code, and you get and basically the authority to basically just call that code. Then what you get. So in this case, crypto APIs started as just an API project. Slowly, they became a blockchain as a service application. Similarly to Infura, started as an API service and slowly became a blockchain as a service platform for Ethereum. So because they are also backed by consensus, they're also a consensus product. So in this case, that's where their focus has been. So, and then later, if you look towards enterprise blockchains, right? So in this case, you can look into like Oracle, HP, SAP, Huawei, Microsoft, Accenture. So for some reason, they decided to not touch the public blockchain. They do not have Ethereum integration. They do not have, like a lot of the public blockchain integrations into their network. I think maybe because they were trying to play a more safer game to see if they, that's, like in a way to check if that, like if let's say if things doesn't work out on the crypto side, maybe we just keep on focusing on the enterprise side, be a front runner for the enterprise blockchain. Maybe they already missed the crypto game. So a lot of them, that's where their focus has been. But some of them, they do have like plugins and tools like Microsoft. They do have a tool that you can still run an Ethereum node if you want to. Right. It's built by a third party. Then if you go into hybrid blockchain, BaaS, they don't really have any affiliation to any particular, like blockchain segments. They basically, whatever works, let's say if a lot of people want Ethereum, they have Ethereum on them. Right. A lot of people want R3, you will get R3 on them. Right. So they kind of play more of a hybrid game. They basically just work with whatever is really being needed in the market. Right. So Kaleido is one of the examples out there. It's also a consensus product. Okay. They, in a way, they started with Ethereum blockchain as a service, where Infura just was an API service. And then slowly Kaleido came into the picture, and Consensus, I believe, invested in them, and they started to deploy some enterprise products. And they also started to deploy some enterprise Ethereum networks.
So of all these BaaS, okay, today, okay, we are going to see 3 of them. You're going to talk about 3 of them.
Yes, I'll be jumping into the consoles in a bit to just show how they look like. Cool. And in this case, I will be talking about the hybrid blockchain as a service, and also a bit on the most of them, actually all 3 of them are hybrid, because I can show you these 2 examples there. So I can show you an Ethereum example, and I can show you the enterprise example within hybrid. And hybrid has a much better infrastructure as well. So I think let's go for a demo. And I think I need to change my screen sharing. All good? Can you see?
Yep.
Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Let me just go and change that. Okay, so this is ChainStack, one of our good partners in Singapore. So basically, this was a very interesting product itself. So, like there's not many startups who actually attempt to do a blockchain as a service startup. Because there's a lot of infrastructure required. There's a lot of like servers that you have to do. There need to be a technical expertise that is required to the space. But ChainStack was one of the companies that say, no, we would like to simplify blockchain adoption.
This looks interesting. It looks very clean.
Yes, that's the reason I like it quite a lot, actually, in a way, because they have a much cleaner interface comparing to AWS or Ali Cloud, where they actually have much more services. They have a lot of more services and a lot of things that you can integrate. But the problem there is, at the same time, you lose focus if you're just trying to build blockchain, right? So this is where ChainStack comes in handy. So you can just go up and click a new project. Let's just call it Asia Enterprise Blockchain Week. Right? So in this case, you can go up and decide, do I want to pick up a public or a consortium blockchain? Right. So let's say if I want to go for a public blockchain, All right, so I can
I
put
have my options here. It says create nodes to join Ethereum, Bitcoin, or Corda networks. And if I chose consortium, it would say that I would have choices of
Hyperledger,
Hyperledger,
Fabric,
Quorum, or multi-chain. Okay,
yes.
cool.
So you have these options that are already available. As you go along, there's going to be more integrations that is available with them as they get more partners, and there's more demand. They start to do this. But at this stage, it's just basically creating a project. So you just create a new project. So in this case, you can see that I have a zero network, and there's basically one member. The member is me. So in this case, I can click up in the project, and in this case, I can start in this section. I can see that this is a consortium network, and I can start building a consortium blockchain. So I have to give this network a name. Let's say test network test one, and then you can just go up and choose which protocol you want to deploy. But since I choose consortium, it's only going to give me the consortium options,
Right.
because they know that I would want to invite members into this. So in this case, they only will give me the protocols that allow me to do this. So let's say I'm going to select Quorum. You're going to ask me which consensus algorithm would I want to use.
Which is native to Quorum.
Yes, which is native to Quorum.
If you selected, say, Corda.
So if I select Corda, it's going to give me Corda consensus services.
Right.
Yeah. So in this case, they will like currently single notary is given, but let's say if you want to go for RAF or BFT, that is the Corda enterprise service. That one you need to purchase it.
Right.
So that's the reason you have to contact them.
Right.
Then in the case of Hyperledger Fabric, similarly here, currently, previously there was also different consensus services that was being offered, but now there's only Raft. So the latest version, it's only supporting Raft. So there's only one option if you want to deploy that. So let's say if I want to go with Quorum and I would want to go with Raft, I can click next, and then I can see how would I want to host this. Do I want to host it on the cloud, or do I want to host it hybrid, right? In hybrid, in this case, I need to contact them and say, oh, maybe I want to deploy the features, like I would want this data to be in my building, right? I don't want it to be on the cloud. So in this case, that's where their benefit comes in. So in this case, you can contact them and you can customize some options for you. And here is where the computing price, it's been mentioned here, and it's free until 19 October. That's so good of them. Let's go down and you can actually see what are the places that you can deploy to. So if I'm looking to, like if I don't really know where I would want to deploy it and which cloud service I would want to deploy it, ChainStack is a better option. I can just come in here, click in and choose which are the platforms that I would like to deploy it on. Let's say if we want to deploy it on Singapore AWS server.
Yeah.
It will basically just give me the option. And then when I click next, it will actually connect with the AWS server, and you see what is the AWS fees for me to rent that particular storage.
Right.
And then it'll come to the summary page and it'll ask me to click create the network. So in this case, that will be the stage till here.
Right.
And right after this, you'll just click, it will just create you a network. It'll take a bit of time, but it usually takes like few minutes to create a network. Meanwhile, I think maybe we can jump onto a different protocol till then. Right. So coming back to AWS, if you've been playing around with AWS, you'll notice that there's actually a new section which is called blockchain, and then under that they have Amazon managed blockchain. I don't know why they have a such long name. I think maybe they just say blockchain or AWS blockchain would have been much easier.
Amazon BaaS.
Yeah, Amazon BaaS would be okay, but I'm not so sure. There might be a reason. I wish we had the Amazon guys on
They're
with us.
listening in right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe next time you might get them in and ask them why did they name it that way. Okay, so you drop you on this landing page to tell you like basically what is the network, the details.
The steps looks the same.
Yeah.
That basically create network, invite members. So
Similar.
It's similar to ChainStack, but ChainStack obviously much more cleaner. Okay. Amazon web services looks very Amazon Web Service.
Similar, yeah, that's the case here. So in the case, but the options that you get are lesser as well, right? Because they still don't have Ethereum on them. It's coming soon for a very long time. So in this case, let's say if you want to deploy an Ethereum node, you can't do it yet, but they have an Hyperledger Fabric,
Right.
like network that's already up here, and then you can choose which version you would want to deploy it, and then which edition. And actually, you can look into the info. They will tell you what is a starter and what is standard. As what I know, a starter is just basically a lot of the settings. It's already pre-adjusted for you. If you go with standard, you have to kind of customize who's your CA. You're gonna have to decide and choose. For the sake of like just as a simple demo, I'll just add in a starter pack. But you can go up and choose your similar network name. You can choose, if let's say you're deploying in Hyperledger, you need to tell what is your voting policy. Let's say it's more than 50%. And then going on next, we'll give you the member name. Like that, as I told you, the CA configuration. You have to choose who will become your CA. For those who's getting confused about it, we already covered this in our Hyperledger session. I did talk about it. And in this case, a CA is usually who will be the person authorizing, changes, adding in new members, votings. So you need a CA, an authorized CA, to basically even do the encryption for most of the members that are who's joining into the space.
Okay.
So going in next, then after you enable the CA and put in once you go next, it won't allow me, I think, right now. It's basically just another review page, and you can click deploy, and it will just start deploying similar to what is over here. Same thing. So let's go for Ali Cloud. Let's just go to my Ali Cloud console. This is different.
Malaysia free trial.
So Ali Cloud is currently offering quite a lot of services, trainings, packages. This is a brand new cloud service. I only use this for this demo and trainings. But actually, they have quite a lot of features that is already available. If you're wondering where is this, you actually can just go down to under this product services. I remember they actually had the blockchain. As you can see, this is like super
It looks similar to
crazy.
AWS.
Yeah. Basically, most of the services that are available on AWS are here, and there's also additional services, especially which is specialized for China, and also some special services to get through the Great Firewall. So if you're looking to build a blockchain service and offer it to China, I recommend Ali Cloud because you have a lot of those. Like let's say the services that allow you to simply access the data and access the websites in China can be easily be accessed through Ali Cloud because they have a lot of the customization to have from communication from inside China to outside of China. And at the same time, if you look into the applications that they have on their product offerings, a lot of them are similar, but they do have some more customized offerings towards fintech. So if you look into offering, like fintechs would like to build some blockchain services, and they would like to see if they need some databases that has with high security and protection, and they also have auditing, which have been approved by some central banks in the world. Alibaba Cloud actually has those types of servers available and services available, on their platform already. So in this case, let's say if you just want to go up and deploy a node, but you would want to use all the services, let's say their SSL certificate, their web application firewall, or their their DDoS service, you can actually just go up and connect to all of those services while just being in one platform instead of being to all. So in this case, if you're on ChainStack, it's easy for you to go up and deploy one network, but you don't get to access to all those services.
Right.
So that's the reason I decided to show you all these three options, because This works well in the Western market if we talk about AWS, because most of the services and offerings are being used everywhere in the world.
Right.
And at the same time, in Malaysia as well, we already have a really good exposure of AWS. But if you're looking to work in the Chinese market, then where Ali Cloud comes in really handy, because a lot of the services allow you to also use it across in Chinese border.
And then for like universities or government departments that they are trying to do any POCs, I think ChainStack would be,
Let's say if you're trying to just get started and just want to try a blockchain, you're not really fancying around deploying your app or anything on AWS or like or Ali Cloud. You don't need those services.
Yeah.
Just go on ChainStack. Just deploy your blockchain.
you just want to basically deploy and see whether your application can work, okay, either on Ethereum or Hyperledger or etc. All right.
Yeah, even if you look into what ChainStack has done, they are a third-party cloud hosting service, right? In this case, they are not directly hosting those servers. You still get the option to choose it on, like Microsoft Azure or AWS. You can choose those options, and you're deploying.
Third-party.
Yeah, in a way, no, it's a third party.
Okay, it's still third party. Okay.
Yeah, because AWS runs those servers, and they are the third party.
Okay.
If you put quorum in the calculation, yes, then they're fourth party.
Okay.
So in this case, yeah, that's what ChainStack does well. But if you go on to Ali Cloud, they also have one additional offering, which is Enchain, which is not available on any other blockchain as a service. So Enchain was first deployed on Ali Cloud. And in this case, let's say if you're trying to look into building your own test network, or you're trying to build try to explore how Enchain works, this is the like the best way for you to get started. But other than that, they also have Enterprise Ethereum, which is already available, which is not even available on AWS yet. Interestingly, the node that we are deploying over here of Quorum is not being deployed on AWS managed blockchain network. It's actually being deployed on an EC2 service. So they are creating a new node. So back in the whenever, not even back, even these days, whenever we want to use a node, if I want to customly deploy it, I usually go and launch an EC2 instance, and usually I just can go up and launch an instance over here, and then basically what I will do is I will deploy all those codes and the protocol up here. Let's say I would want to deploy Tezos, or I would want to deploy some other blockchain. I can just launch an EC2 instance and just deploy the program in it. So in this case, that's what ChainStack is doing at this moment. They're deploying an EC2 instance and deploying these custom chains in it. And similarly, what AWS itself is doing is going to be deploying it in a new instance. But I do not know why they didn't integrate many of those services. I'm not sure if the demand is low, or is it because they're still exploring blockchain? Because if you go and search on LinkedIn, there's actually a lot of new blockchain jobs that are available in AWS. Everything from people managing Amazon managed by blockchain, blockchain engineers, blockchain architects, blockchain software engineers, blockchain smart contract developers. There are, I think, easily about 20 job openings that I've seen in the last few months. So I believe they're actually looking heavily into the space, but maybe they're not able to get the talent available at the space to build it yet. So maybe that's why they're doing. Where it goes on ChainStack, they already have a community that is like very much involved in the crypto community, and they're already exploring the services. And let's go for Ali Cloud. They have been looking into the space I think Ali Cloud and both Ant Group has already been looking into the space for the past 3 years. They have among the most patents registered in China, and in almost among, I think also the most in the world as well at the moment. So in this case, they've already been exploring many different use cases, and they have been quite aggressive about it. So let's say if I want to go up and create an Ethereum node, I can just go up and put the name, the ID, and then I can choose the like the consensus. But Raft is not available here. I'm not sure why they didn't add a Raft, like a Raft option. But I think they didn't use that version of Ethereum. It might be an older version of Ethereum. and the difficulty is and a gas limit is kind of set, and then you can choose which region you would want to deploy it to. In our case, we'll click Singapore. You add in your description. You will add a node, and then you just click create. Well, that is what it will do. And you have to remember, once you the reason why I'm not clicking this, because I did this to demo multiple times, and what I did is actually I forget to delete it afterwards.
So it
Because
charges you.
yeah, it takes some time to deploy, and once it deploy, then maybe you go off somewhere and then you just forget about it, and one day there will be a message on your phone, AWS deducted this much of money from your card, and you're like, oh shit. Because you actually have to come back, and if let's say you're just demoing it, you have to cancel it. Because sometimes it just overruns the free period and start charging you, and you don't know.
Right.
And in the end of the month, it bills you.
Right. So this is just something to note for those who are actually running these experiments for your companies. Just know, okay, that get the clearance, get the budget.
Yes.
Okay, all sorted first.
Yeah, so it is usually a lot of them, they give you a free deployment, free testing time, but you have to ensure that you do it in that time limit that has been given.
Yeah.
So in that case, let's say once you run out from the free time, or you just ignore, it is still charging you because you're still using their resource. You're still blocking one of their instances from running.
Right.
So in this case, they will still charge you for it. So I've done this mistake multiple times. So I will actually tell you that not to do the same mistakes that I've done.
Right.
But similarly with that, that's how it runs for what they call the N group. That's how it runs for Hyperledger Fabric. But Fabric has a different option where you can start even creating your own organization. Basically, you can start inviting people to this particular service. You can also give them the permissions on what are the things they can do. In this case, let's say I would want to say that I'm deploying an organization in the Singapore region, and I'm choosing organization, and I'm using an enterprise edition. I can put up my name, organization, domain name, and then I can just buy the service. So it is actually much expensive to run enterprise edition, and I think consortium is much expensive than an organization. Yes. So once you pay that the money, it will allow you to start creating your own kind of an enterprise group, which you can add them into your Hyperledger network.
Right.
Because if you wanted to do this manually, it will take you 3 days to 4 days, and you have to just sit down in front of a CLI and keep on typing in commands and codes, and and punching in until you get all the permissions right.
That's right.
Yeah, usually in the case of Ali Cloud, there's just few buttons of clicks, but then they charge you for that.
Yeah.
Because they're selling you a form of convenience that, okay, now you don't have to code that much. You have an easier way to monitor what is happening on your network. But in that case, we'll have to charge you for that.
Got it.
So that's what basically blockchain as a service is.
Okay.
So in this case, it's just simplifying a lot of the deployment and the development work that is actually being done out there, and in a way also kind of having an easier way for people to build their tools and integrate with already available services out there.
So so we have about maybe about 10 minutes left, right? Okay. I'd like to take this moment, okay, to segue, okay, into bringing back to the real world case, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people seek you for consultation, okay, and I have this use case. Can you give an example of one of the most common use cases that people would like to actually solve? And then how do they actually go about deploying this, right? From what I just saw, okay, first of all, it's very expensive, okay, to deploy. So what are the common use cases, okay, that in the past, and how do people usually go about that?
Yeah, in terms of answering why is it very expensive, there are expensive options and there are cheaper options. You have to look for it. As I say, if in the case of cheaper option, ChainStack is giving you a free option to deploy. If let's say you want a cheaper option, instead of using AWS managed blockchain, you're just going to launch an EC2 instance. It is free for a year.
Right.
If you go on a beginner's account, and in this case, if you're using the lower resources limit, you don't need huge amount of RAM or processing power on your EC2. You can choose a lower version, and it will be free for a longer time.
Right.
So you can actually, there are cheaper options, easy option, but you will have to do a bit more work.
Right.
And there are already a lot of tutorials, guide, and what they call guidelines that are available out there. If let's say you're a student, there's even student accounts. Like in the case of Alibaba, you actually can go up and apply. If let's say you're a startup or you're a student, you would like to learn more about Alibaba, you want to get access to that, you actually can go and apply over there, and they will send you an email and say, hey, you can register here, and we'll give
Right.
you some
Okay.
free
So
funds.
there are options available to make it accessible for people who want to experiment if they're a student or they're a startup.
Yes.
All right. Now for what we are talking about right now is also that I noticed that we are running on an assumption that a use case that the business feasibility side has already been discovered already. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
All right. That would, and then how you would go about it is that now instead of actually doing it yourself, there's there's an easy way to basically quickly deploy it, see the results, see whether does the result actually happen.
Yes. Because in this case, let's say if you already have some ideas, let's say you just want to build something, like you just want to try something, or will this concept work, or will this idea work on this blockchain, right? Maybe you just want to write some simple smart contract code and test it out, right? But then you don't want to be, lost around deploying the whole infrastructure, the whole network. Because when you want to try what they call try writing a website or a simple code, you don't need all of that. You can just do it in a computer. You can just test it, run that particular service, on your computer itself. But let's say if you're actually trying to run something on the blockchain, you have to test it on the blockchain protocol, right? You have to test it with the protocol, will it work or not? And in this case, let's say if you're working in a team, it becomes much more difficult. So that's the reason we usually deploy it on such service. We actually put up all our teams in it. We deploy them, build, run, test the contracts together on the network. And in this case, later on, if these are all production ready, what they call the services. In this case, once we already deploy those contracts, we can even start bringing in all the other partners and members in to join in this network and just start testing them out. And once you're comfortable, and then it's already a production running network, you can even keep on adding in new members. So it kind of simplify the process. The money that we see on Alibaba Cloud might be expensive for an individual startup, but there are startup options. And even on AWS actually, I'm one of the AWS scouts. So let's say if you want to go and develop a solution on blockchain and you're getting started, you have a startup and you would want to build something, you actually can reach out to me or the AWS itself. They actually can provide you with startup aids. They actually usually do fund up to 5,000 USD worth of credits for you to just test out with most of their ecosystem. You get it for the whole ecosystem, not just blockchain. You can even try EC2, you can even try most of the other services that are available, and you can see if it's suitable for you or not. And let's say if you build on AWS, and they usually also have many other benefits that comes with it.
Is this suitable for people from the government listening in right now?
It's suitable. Let's say if the government would like to deploy this, because in this case, even if you see what happened on ChainStack, AWS, and AliCloud, they do deploy hybrid solutions as well, right? In the case of AWS, AliCloud, they even do it for the cloud service itself. Let's say you would want a storage to be centralized. They actually do provide those kind of services. But then the question will be, why am I using blockchain if I would want a centralized storage, right? So in this case, but they do allow such customization. Maybe you wanted an enterprise solution or an enterprise solution where only multiple parties have the storage or the access to their network, but you just want to use AliCloud's dashboard and AliCloud's management tools. You don't want to build a whole new management tool. So in that case, you can still work with them, and basically once they agree on those terms, I believe there is a scope to work with everyone from enterprise, government, startups, small businesses, private entrepreneurs. Everybody has something to gain from it.
Okay. One more question, which is, what is one thing, that a lot of people, one misconception that a lot of people, that just prevents people from taking the step?
I think a lot of people actually are very misinformed, underinformed, or don't know anything about the space itself, right? in terms of misconception, when IBM launched their blockchain as a service product, everybody thought Hyperledger was a IBM product. First question, what first misconception? Everybody thought this was a centralized stuff that is not
Right,
going to
right,
be
right.
owned. So there was, like inter crypto community notions in it. There was, like all the crypto enthusiasts was thinking that this is a centralized option. Although if you really look into it, the protocol that's running behind this is still public blockchains.
Right, it's very easy in the tech space to kind of like get lost with all the various uh, options that in that. But like, what is the But I mean, like in the last 3 years, we've done so much like blockchain education. I think people kind of like get the bare understanding that what it can solve. They do recognize that there's a trust gap. They definitely love the idea that that we don't need to go and basically like sign new forms every time. Also, just write new form. You want to register for this, get new form, sign more forms. Okay, get this done. Right. I think a lot of people agree on that. But what is that thing that is still preventing people from basically starting up an experiment? So from the enterprise side, government side.
I think a lot of it is because usually governments and enterprises often, like a lot of these big enterprises, they usually will be the last runners in. They usually see all the
Yeah.
startups, see how they do it. If they can copy it, they copy it. If they can buy them off, they buy them off and integrate into whatever offerings they have. So they have always been their business model because in this case, they basically see what will be the most efficient way of developing it. Because in a way, it's basically a race between an ant and an elephant, right? An elephant, you're like it's a giant, you're like moving up, but an ant is more flexible. It can like basically climb up trees. It can do many different things, and it can work collaboratively with all the other ants. But an elephant is just a giant that basically moves slow, but like it can crush the ant if it comes on the wrong, like wrong foot, or it comes at the wrong position. But at the same time, it also can actually help like to basically support the ant as well in certain ways as being a carrier.
All right. Okay. So I think this is where starting tomorrow. Okay. Um, that's the goal, right? Okay. Let's just share this with the audience. Okay, what to expect for the week to come. So we have so today we've covered blockchain as a service. Okay, tomorrow we're starting to actually see what are the different kinds of use cases. Okay, so starting with traceability. Tomorrow we're having Sini Sana,
Sinisana?
Sini Sana, not Sana Sini.
Sinisa.
Sini Sana.
Yeah.
Right, we're having Sini Sana, we're having Luxtech, and we're having VChain, as guest panelists, to talk about some successful implementations, some past implementations, so that more of us, more of you, we're able to see the kind of things that you can do. And then perhaps, that would draw some inspiration, that would drive some conversation in your industry, in your company, in your government agency, to kickstart, and solve a problem using the technology that is already available today. All right. Thank you very much. Harpreet. Again, this is the end of day one. Please be back here tomorrow. At same time, 8 p.m. Tomorrow on Tuesday, GMT +8. Again, thank you to Asia Blockchain Center. Thank you to all partners, Blockchain Space, Blocktide, our friends from Vietnam, the View Ed, the education arm. There. Thank you. To our friends from Indonesia. Crypto Watch, as well as Blockchain Media Indonesia, as well as our friends from Australia. Roughneat,
Ravneet.
as well as Blocksiders. And last but not least, TechCryption as well. For supporting this event. Again, see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. GMT +8. Bye, guys.